it's just Rob here from 48fitnessandbootcamps.com. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'm calling this the Reservoir Riddle. And the reason why I'm calling it this is the other day I was watching the film Reservoir Dogs, and I wanted to use this as an example around a riddle, and hopefully you'll figure out. If not, I'm going to tell you it anyway. But I'm going to use this as an example. Reservoir Dogs, pretty brutal film, but absolutely awesome. Some ladies might not like that, but if you've seen it, then you'll understand these names here. Okay, so we've got a Mrs. Brown, we've got a Mrs. White, and a Mrs. Pink. And what happens is they all go on this weight loss journey together. They all start in total. Hopefully you can see this on the board. If not, I'm going to explain it to you so you can understand what's going on here. Now, like I said, they all go on this weight loss journey together, and within the first 4 weeks, they get some fantastic results, but this is what's going on. Mrs. Brown, she is a size 8, okay? She wants to get, she doesn't really want to lose much weight, but she wants to tone up, so that, that's Mrs. Brown's story. Mrs. White, she's a size 12 in her clothes. She does want to lose weight, and she also wants to get to around where Mrs. Brown is, between an 8 and a 10. Mrs. Pink, okay, she's a size 16 in her clothes. She wants to lose a lot of weight, a lot of inches, and she wants to get also to where Mrs. Brown is, all right, round about an 8 or a 10. And like I said, they all go on this journey together, and at the end of it, okay, Mrs. Brown loses 2 pounds, so she hasn't lost much weight, but she's lost 10 inches. Mrs. White, she's lost a massive 8 pounds, and she's dropped from a size 12 down to a 10, and she's also lost 12 inches. Mrs. Pink, remember, she was a size 16, she's lost a whopping 14 pounds and lost a massive 18 inches, and she's also dropped a dress size and she's gone to a size 14. But there's a few things happening here, and this is where the riddle comes in. Mrs. Brown is looking at Mrs. White, and she's thinking, how come Mrs. White, how come she's lost 8 pounds and I've only lost 2? How come she's lost 12 inches and I've only lost 10? So there's a 2-inch shortfall there. Mrs. Pink is thinking the same. She's thinking, hang on, I've lost 14 pounds, I've lost a massive 18 inches, I've dropped a dress size, but I'm still not happy with that. I want to be where Mrs. Brown is. But Mrs. Brown is also looking at Mrs. Pink and thinking, hang on, she's lost 14 pounds, 18 inches, why have I only lost 10? Mrs. White is wanting to be where Mrs. Brown is, Mrs. Pink is wanting to be where Mrs. White is, and they're all wanting this pretty quick. Can you understand what's going on here? Can you understand the riddle? Alright, what is actually going on here? Everyone on this weight loss journey is concentrating on everyone else. Okay? Like, Mrs. Brown didn't want to drop that much weight anyway. She's lost 10 inches. Alright, Mrs. White, she wants to get to where Mrs. Brown is, so she's on her weight loss journey to where that is. Mrs. Pink, she also wants to get to where Mrs. Brown is, but Mrs. Brown's pissed off because Mrs. White has lost 12 inches. Mrs. Brown's only lost 10. Mrs. Pink is pissed off because she's lost 18 inches. Alright, and 14 pounds, but she's wanting to be where Mrs. Brown is, and this is when all of this starts to become very confusing. You might be looking at it now and thinking, what the hell is going on here? But that's exactly what happens when women or people are going on weight loss journeys. They're always concentrating on other people, and they're not actually looking at themselves and seeing how fantastic they've done. They're always comparing themselves next to other people, and this is when you start to get to know other people a hell of a lot more than what you know yourself, because you're concentrating on them all the time. I've seen it within the fitness levels as well. People coming in here and they're concentrating on what they can do and, what the other person can do in comparison to what they can do. They've just started a journey and they're looking around, seeing what other people are doing that have been coming in here for 4 months, 5 months. And obviously, science and, fitness levels do come into the equation. So yes, in 4 to 5 months, your fitness levels in here are going to go, through the roof. But people that have been coming for a week and 2 weeks are expecting to do what those people are doing in, you know, in 2 weeks. In 4 to 5 months, these guys have been coming. It's a slow journey. I'm not saying that it's fast. You can take it as fast as slow as you want. You know, you can train more as long as you're resting more and all of these different things. But do not, you know, compare yourself to other people. And this is when, you know, a lot of confusion starts and you start getting lost on your own journey because you're looking at other people's journeys. And like I said, Mrs. Brown, Mrs. White, and Mrs. Pink, they're all comparing each other. Even though Mrs. Brown's happy, you know, where she is, she starts getting pissed off because these guys are losing more than what she is, yet she doesn't want to be there. Right? These guys want to get to where Mrs. Brown is, but they're comparing themselves next to Mrs. Brown. So, like I say, if you're doing any kind of weight loss journey or, you know, fitness, don't compare yourselves to other people, compare yourself to yourself. You know, be the greatest that you can be at what you're doing, not what anyone else is doing. And that's today's message. I hope that you enjoyed the riddle, and I hope that you can see that. I can't really capture it on the camera to see if you can actually see what's going on here. You probably won't be able to understand my writing anyway. It's a bit of a doctor style, but yeah, thanks very much for watching this video. And this is Robert Westerburg from 40 Fitness and Boot Camps signing out. Peace.